Hey, we're going to look at a really, really well-known section of Scripture in 2 Peter chapter 1. It begins in verse 5. It's related to the passage, but you may not know that 2 weeks ago, Monday, I went to a hand surgeon and had this little finger worked on. It was at a 90-degree angle like that, and instead of doing full-blown surgery, she takes needles and goes in there and pries the cartilage away from the nerve and tries to straighten your finger. And she was really disappointed when she finished because she said, I didn't get enough movement out of it. But when she left, I kind of kept popping on it and it kind of moved more. And now it's actually pretty straight. So I went back to see her Tuesday, and she was very, very pleased with what had happened. And she said, are you wearing your splint at night? And she said, you need to wear that splint at night for 2 weeks. I said, I've been faithful, I've worn it for 2 weeks. And I said, I'm going to keep wearing it some at night. And she said, you're not there wearing it during the day, are you? And I said, no. And she said, you know what would happen if you wore it all day, every day? And I said, what would happen? She said, it would not be long before that finger would not be movable. That finger would be stuck just like that for the rest of the time. Now, what does that tell you? Does that tell you anything? What's the lesson from that? Well, my lesson would be.
Don't put the splint on during the day.
Yeah. Don't put. If you don't use something like it's supposed to be used, that's supposed to be closing up and down like that. It's supposed to move at this joint and so forth. If you don't use it, what happens to it? It just becomes stiff. It won't work anymore. And so we often know when someone goes into the hospital and they have quite a long stay in the hospital, maybe 2 weeks in the hospital, and they're in the bed most of the time, when they come out, whatever they went in for might get fixed, but how are they physically? They're very weak. They're much weaker because they've been doing nothing but in that bed, doing nothing. And so the old statement is, if you're standing still, you're really what?
Backing up.
Backing up. You're going backwards. And so, is it possible for us just to stand still, just to stop? So we also learn that a lot of people who retire and who decide to do nothing, what happens to them? Very quickly.
They have a heart attack.
They have a heart attack, or they die in some way when they just stop everything, not active at all. So what's the lesson in all that? Is there anything to all that? All right, keep moving.
You have to keep working in Christ as well as your physical life, and if you stop your studies and everything in the Bible and whatnot, then it's not going to be long before you don't even think about, I didn't do that.
Okay, so Cheryl's saying there's a spiritual application to this. If you just stop where you are, you're going to probably back up. You're probably going to wither a bit. So one of the secrets to life is to keep growing. Is that right? I talked to a man this week, and he said, my dad was an engineer. It wasn't Lockheed Martin, but it was some aircraft company. He said he had 250 people under him, and he said he was really a pretty powerful leader. But he said he's in the care center over here, not too far from where we're talking, and he said he's been blind for 8 years. And I said, is it macular degeneration? He said, yes. I said, I know what that's like. My dad had the same thing. And he said, but the interesting thing is, he's in that care center, and his attitude is so powerful and so good, and he still keeps saying to me, son, if you walk in here and you've got a problem, you better be bringing a solution at the same time. And he said, he says this motivator inside this facility where he's blind. And I thought, wow, isn't that something? Instead of sitting back and and being still and giving up. He's out there working with people and trying to lead them into solving their life problems. Am I making any sense to you at all? You've got to go forward. And age is not an excuse. I'll never forget, one of my great friends in Lubbock was a man named Gene Hancock. Gene Hancock passed away when he was 94. I didn't meet him until he was almost maybe 88, 89, something like that. Riding with him, I thought more than once that my life was over. I mean, literally. And but he was an amazing man, because if you see an earth-moving scraper going down the road, you can think of Gene Hancock. He invented the earth-moving scraper. He's the one who built the first terracing machine ever known in America. And it was the kind drawn by a tractor where it would dig a little trench and have a conveyor belt and dump it up over on a mound. He built that. And then he built a tractor-drawn Hancock scraper. And then he started getting patents for a self-propelled. And John Deere started having some issues with him because they wanted to have this too. And so they had some patent battles, and he finally sold his patents, and he made millions and millions of dollars, and Lubbock Christian University would not be in existence were it not for Gene Hancock. Because his daughter was killed in the 1950s by a drunk driver, and he said, we'll remember my daughter by building a university or making this university work. But it was somewhere in around 90, 91 or something, we were talking one day, and Susan was talking with him about computers. And he said, give me one of those computers. I'll learn how to work it. I'll do that. And it's that mindset. It's that mindset that I'm never going to stop. I'm just going to keep going. I need to learn a computer. I'll learn a computer. Whatever it is, I'll do. Is that all working right here? You've got to understand what I'm saying if you're going to really comprehend what we're about to read right here. And I'm going to read it in its entirety to start with, and then we'll back up. Because there's one section here we so easily take out of context. But I want you to listen to all this. And some of you can quote this. For this reason, make every effort. A lot of times in the Bible, find that statement, make every effort. To add to your faith goodness, and to goodness knowledge, knowledge self-control, self-control perseverance, to perseverance godliness, to godliness brotherly kindness love. For if you possess these qualities in increasing measure, they will keep you from being ineffective and unproductive in your knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. But if anyone does not have them, he is nearsighted and blind and has forgotten that from which he has been cleansed. Therefore, my dear brothers, be all the more eager to make your calling and election sure, for if you do these things, you will never fall. And people read that last part and they say, make every effort to make your calling and election sure. And they say, well, I'm really confused about that, because that means that my salvation is dependent upon what I do. Upon what I do. And we know that's what? That's not right. That is not right. So what in the world is he talking about this? Make your calling and election sure. For if you do these things, you're never going to fall. What's it all about?
Just what you've been talking about. Keep going. Good.
Exactly, because he precedes all that by saying, you've got to understand something. You need to add to your faith virtue. And to virtue you need to add knowledge. And to knowledge you need to add patience. And to patience you need to add perseverance. And to perseverance you need to add godliness. And you need to add brotherly kindness in there. And you finally need to add some love. And if these things are in you in increasing measure, what does that mean?
They're not stagnant.
They're not stagnant. I'm not standing still. Now, we read last week that you can't get all those by yourself. Remember what I told you? I've really tried. I have really tried to take some of these qualities, and by my willpower, I've tried to make them bigger and bigger and bigger in my life, and all the time I end up looking at it saying, man, I failed on that one right there. So above that, it talked about His divine power will help us this. But I have a part to play. I have a part to play. I just can't sit in my big chair and do nothing and expect this to just happen. I have to work at it. And I have to work at it my entire life. And so it's involved in prayer. It's involved in considering Bible subjects. It's involved when we come together and we study on Sunday mornings like we do, through long sections of material so that we see what the real picture is, the big picture that God has for us. And it gets reinforced, and it gets reinforced. And though no one can remember what I talked about Sunday, it's still helping you. You're still growing as you consider these things. You just can't stand still. So these qualities, by the way, it starts with faith. I just want to get better at goodness. Isn't that an interesting statement to make? You add goodness? What does goodness mean? I don't even know how to define it exactly. Do you? But it sounds like it's the opposite of evil to me. I mean, I can think of things that are not good, but I just, and then I'm going to add knowledge. What good's that? You keep adding knowledge, keep adding understanding. And we made that point way up here in verse 2 about grace and how it covers us as we're growing through life. And while I'm over here, I'm obedient to what I know over here, and yet when I get over here, I look back over here and realize I didn't really have it. I didn't have it down right over here. And now I kind of got it more right. I kind of got it figured out a little better. Was I not saved till I got over here? Well, God's grace is helping me all the way through. Is that making sense to you? And so knowledge never quits. And as I find something new, I mean, I'm telling you, it's a rare month. I would say week, but I'll always use the word month. It's a rare month that I don't find something here that I hadn't seen before, or I see it differently in some fashion that I saw in days gone by. And I have to pause and think about it. And self-control, do you have to grow in that? The ability to tell yourself no is how I define self-control. But am I more self-controlled today, Ken Jones, at this age than I was at Ken Jones at age 30? Maybe a little bit. Maybe a whole lot. That's part of the growth system. And godliness, just possessing the qualities of God and brotherly kindness, just learning how to be kind. I may be doing a bit better at that too, by the way. And to all this, you add the supreme quality of all, the mark of all Christianity, which is what? You add love. And does love grow? Now be careful, because I define love as a behavior, because I think the New Testament defines love as a behavior. It's more than a feeling, because sometimes I don't have the right feeling toward you. You got that? Sometimes you just exasperated me to the point I don't have a very good feeling about you. But love calls me to behave in a certain way, even though I might not have the feeling to do so at the moment. Everybody got that? So love dovetails with self-control, a lot of other things. Everybody kind of see that? That's why Paul will say, let me tell you what love is. It's patient, and it's kind, and it is not rude, and it's not self-seeking, and it's not puffed up, and it protects people. And it doesn't remember the wrongs that you did yesterday and the day before that and the day before that. And that's why a marriage cannot exist for very long unless you learn to behave in love. Now listen to it again. If anyone does not have them, you got a problem. You're nearsighted and you're blind. Wow. Is that straightforward language? And I got to tell you something. Sometimes we need straightforward language. Do you know that? We don't need to say it meanly, but sometimes we have to hear the truth. This is the truth. Whether you like it or not, whether it may hurt a little bit, if you don't know the truth, you're not going to make a very good decision for tomorrow. If you don't get this right, you're nearsighted, you're blind, you've forgotten the great cleansing you received by the blood of Christ from all of your past sins, and therefore I got a solution for you. You keep these things in your life in increasing measure. You get out of the easy chair and you work at it, and you don't have to worry about falling away. You don't have to worry about Satan robbing your salvation from you. You don't have to worry about Satan stealing away. And I'm telling you, he wants to steal every good thing in your life. He wants to steal every single good thing in your life. He doesn't want a single marriage in this audience to survive. He doesn't want a single one of us to come back next Wednesday night. He doesn't care if every one of us ends up with some kind of great illness tomorrow and pass away the next day. He just doesn't care. He wants us to all fail. So if you want to keep it together, you got to keep increasing. Okay? So as long as I have sound mind, and as long as I can get around, I do what? My friend's dad had knee replacement about 6 months ago. It just didn't work. And it wouldn't heal. So they went in and did it a second time. And it wouldn't work. It wouldn't heal. And so about a month ago, 5 weeks ago, they took his leg off right here above the knee. And he's a gardener, and he likes his garden tractor, and he likes all that. And so they put him in a rehab center for a while, and he tells the lady out there, he said, if you use a different kind of soil right out there, that will grow better in this rehab center. And he says to his son, go put that soil over there, because that's the way he talks. And the nurse said, oh, no. Your son's not going to put that soil over there. You want that soil over there? You go get that soil over there. You just wheel yourself over there and put that soil over there. You're not going to get by with this. And so they get him home before he gets his prosthetic leg. And they say, well, we got a motorized wheelchair over here. We got a motorized cart. And the physical therapist says, oh, no, you don't. Don't you bring any motorized thing close to him. He's going to do it himself. He's going to keep going. Because if you put him in that motorized thing, he may never go again. Everybody get the lesson? You just got to keep going.